Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everyone. Alex here, and I'm joined by Patrick Thiele for another Stage Hero client interview. I love working with you, Patrick, and I'm excited for this interview. Who are you? Who do you serve? And what transformation do you deliver?
Thanks for having me, Alex. I'm Patrick, and what I basically do is help people be their best when it matters most. So I work with high-level athletes, Olympians, world champions, but also with leaders, C-level leaders, and founders to help them stay calm, clear, grounded when the pressure is the highest so that they can actually lead and perform from their best self. That's the core of my work at the end of the day.
Powerful. And you've worked with some really impressive people, made them better, and allowed them to have great breakthroughs, great achievements. Walk us to the start of working together. Your message positioning, your speech, your visibility flywheel to establish yourself as a leading expert, to be known and trusted. Where were you in the beginning of us working together, and then where did the program take you?
Yeah, before we started working together, I basically ended up in the same loop over and over for years. I, of course, knew that positioning is super important and that I need like a clear concept and a clear structure. But on the other side, the actual work that I did with people had so many variations. And I always thought like, okay, it's just too much to put myself in a box. And I had those countless times when I tried to really nail my positioning, but I stopped at some points like, okay, that doesn't feel like me. It feels too niched down. It doesn't include like all of me. And then I got back to, yeah, okay, let's keep it like it is, because I had incoming clients. I had like a more or less constant flow. But looking back, it was basically just me holding myself back, because once we got into the program, I finally got to really sit down with all the questions that I've avoided throughout the years. And now, walking through that program, I can really look back at it and see, okay, I have a clear concept, I have a clear positioning. It's not too narrowed down that I feel boxed in. It still gives a lot of space for me to breathe, but it was basically what opened the door for me was this perspective of like, how do I see the world? Like the lens to what's my work that you brought in. And that was like just completely different approach to how I thought about it in the past. And then all of a sudden, like the doors opened up and everything aligned itself almost effortlessly. And then the speech came from that, the concept came from that. The opportunities that now are opening up with companies or speeches or podcasts, they all came from that. And now I can really, yeah, sit with this concept, with this positioning and work with that.
I love how you're describing that you were already playing at such a high game, and yet with that positioning kind of a little off or just not dialed in, it was keeping you from just becoming your even better version. And how when that one little tap was opened, everything flowed. I love hearing this. Take us back to the very beginning. What drove you towards the program, and what were you struggling with specifically where you were like, I trust this guy can help me?
The first intro basically came through a mutual friend of us, through Vanessa, and I just saw a post from her in January that she decided working with you. And even though you've built a lot of authority in your space, I had never really seen anything of you. And then I looked through many of your stuff and yeah, immediately felt connected to it, because I always had this feeling of wanting to be on stages more. I had a couple of opportunities doing that in the past and always felt supernatural to me, and I felt super alive being on stage, but I never really took the time to build like a complete system around it and to constantly be on stage and make that a regular thing. So there was no system in place to really reach out to potential events, to podcasts, whatever. And also, I was, of course, like missing this core positioning, and it was often super hard for me to explain what I actually do. And if I compare it to the stage that I'm now at, just for example, last week having a call with the head of leadership development in a global SaaS company, and we were just like talking for 5 minutes. I was just showing her bits of what I'm doing and talking about the inner capacity under pressure. And she immediately connected with it. It was so easy and effortless to show her what's the benefit of my work and how I can support her team and her leaders compared to 3, 4, 6 months in the past. It was super hard to really get a feeling for what I'm doing and not being like boxed into like just being the one who helps people deal with stress, because the work that I do is way more than that.
And I love that you lean fully into that new positioning and also the angle, right? To go at something that a lot of people want in the market, but to fix your positioning around it and have a unique angle. You lean fully into it, and that's, you know, the result that you're talking about is testament to that. So tell us a little bit about your wins and how they impact your life and your business, if you want to elaborate.
Yeah. I mean, the first one I've already mentioned twice now is really having this clear positioning. That was like the first big win, even though it took a bit of effort and discipline in the first weeks to really sit with it and go through all the exercises that you've provided and all the feedback loops. But having that was like a big check box for me, definitely. And that would also the door opener to then having the speech, the 6 minute speech that we did at the pitch night, having that as a concept. I already used it twice again on some of my own events, just as an introduction to the event and give people like a feeling of what we're actually doing here and why this is so important. So it serves on many levels right now. And the other big win for me was basically towards the end, like really having this clear outreach system. Before we were working together, I was basically relying on people just finding me. And yes, it worked. I mean, I had all the proof with Olympic champions, working with Google, Meta, Microsoft. I never approached them. They just came to me. But it was sort of like a gamble for me because I never really knew when's the next coming. And sometimes there were some really dry phases financially. So now having a clear setup, a clear structure, and also kind of like being able to break this barrier for myself doing constant outreach. Because at the beginning, when I sat down and you came along with the list and everything that we need to do, there was definitely the voice inside of my head telling me, whoa, that's too much. I cannot do it. It's super boring. That's not my work. That should be the work of someone else. That's not in my genius zone and all this stuff. But after like, I think 2, 3 days constantly staying with it, I really broke through, and all of a sudden I really found joy in it. And now it's like really a constant practice, sitting down, going through some people on my list, sending out my videos, my texts, following up, seeing opportunities opening up, and it gets like a flywheel that builds on it. Yeah.
I love hearing that and how you leaned into this and overcame that little or large blockage, right? Or the resistance is really what made it work. And by that you were able to inspire others as well. As you know, in the cohort, we have the buddy system, we have everybody else, you know, interacting. And by sharing that joy, you know, the joy after the resistance, you really inspired some of the others because, you know, either people are playing on such a high level that they often didn't have to, like you, reach out to people, but they're also noticing the, let's say, the risk factor of it. Or they just, you know, maybe they were in a job and had someone do it for them. This is another archetype where when you start having to do it, or when you start wanting to add that to your business, there's the resistance come up, and this was really nice to watch. In terms of, I mean, you have a family, you have obviously work to do, a lot of things on your agenda, events to run. Talk to us about time investment and how you manage to do it with all the things going on in your life to focus on this program.
Yeah. I remember when we first talked, you told me, hey, you need at least 4 hours a week to really be able to benefit from the program. And that's what I immediately just plugged in my calendar. And of course, to be honest, at the beginning, it took a bit more than that. I think especially in the first 2, 3 weeks, and then also with preparing for the keynote, I was probably like 6 hours a week at some point that I've invested in that. But for me, it was just a priority at that point. It's like, okay, I've signed up for it. I really want to make the most out of it. And it's on me to really create the time and see, okay, what else might need to move in my calendar. But it's not that I kind of like just sat here in front of my laptop for the last 3 months now that we've been through the program. I still had some real quality time with my daughter, with my wife. I met friends. I have a really active lifestyle with training outside, going to the beach and everything. It was a cool mix, just with shifted priorities, I would say.
Fantastic. Good to hear, because I think some people are afraid, oh, maybe this is going to take over my life. And at the same time, it is for many people, when they join, it is a major decision in terms of transforming their brand and transforming their authority. So I love hearing this, because it's both, it needs the time, but it's also, highly condensed for what it does. So I enjoy hearing you say this. In terms of the systems and the formats I offer, there's a 10-day challenge, there's a review preview, there's the pitch night, a bunch of other things, I-bombs, accordion speech. So is there anything that stands out for you, that sticks out as very beneficial, very, moving the needle, or something that stuck memorable in your mind?
The first thing that comes to mind are actually the I-bombs, because I use them so often in the last weeks, ever since we've created them, either in content or in speeches or events that I do. That definitely changed a lot in how I look at how I present my work. And then I think also, even though sometimes I needed a reminder on that, like the review was definitely something that was always super valuable to really see the progress, but also like instantly set a new intention for the next week. It's like, hey, what's coming up? What do I want to work on? What are the next steps? And then you go back the next week and you can celebrate kind of the successes. And of course, you can see it also from the others in the program, and you kind of move forward together. So that's definitely the second one. And if I have to pick a third one, that would be the accordion speech, because I now have a concept that I always can go back to, and I can adapt to whatever format is in front of me. And I'm really able to just more or less step on stage and say, like, okay, how many minutes do I have? Okay, then I know exactly what to do.
I love the empowering feeling of that, of knowing it doesn't really matter where, what stage, what audience, what time. I am to just be able to be so confident. And it's a rare thing, right? For many years of my keynote career, I was not in that capability, because I hadn't, picked it up yet, and always like over preparing and feeling like, will I make it? And I love how you say that. That's eased now. In terms of the community, share with us, please, about Buddy, and about the community overall, and the engagement, and what you took away from it.
I think that was one of the most beneficial layers of the work, because you somehow made a great job in selecting the people in our cohort, and everybody was like super aligned. I already knew a couple of people before we started, then we got to know each other at the pitch night, which was super cool to really have some life experience together. And of course, really just forming bonds. I met with a couple of people separately throughout the program. We also met here in Valencia, and we also sticked with the buddy system, at least my buddy and I. We just stick with it. We say, okay, at least once a month we check in together. We set some goals for ourselves to create some accountability around that. And then it helps us to keep going with the program. And I think there are many others that I will stay connected with because they were such strong bonds, and seeing them grow and seeing us grow together, and maybe just in the future being on stages together would be a super cool experience.
I would love seeing this. And I love hearing what you're saying because, a lot of people are afraid when before they join a program, they may have had bad experiences with programs that are basically like dead communities or communities that are hugely blown up and you can't connect to anyone. So I'm very happy that you had this experience and that the vibrancy of the community is something that sticks out for you. Maybe my last question for somebody doing due diligence and kind of like figuring out, is this program for me? Do I lean in? Do I pull the trigger? What's something you would want them to know?
I think the most important thing for them to know is that they not only have like a great system and a great community, but they also have like a mentor in you who's always available. And I've been through many programs in the past, and of course, every facilitator claims to be available for support and everything, but not everybody is able to really keep up with that. But you were always on time, answering in school, on WhatsApp, checking in, reminding me on certain things, just asking how the progress is, and also giving feedback, super valuable feedback on so many levels, bringing in new perspectives, sharing the insights that you had of all the years in your space, just handing them over to us to apply. And that made it even more powerful and valuable, just knowing that there's always someone there where I can get support. And it's not just a marketing statement, it's really a lived truth.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I love hearing that the benefit was there, that that you see it and also that you took it, right? Because it's one thing to provide, the other thing is for you to take and implement it. And your results show that was the case. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. So yeah, this was Patrick. This was super insightful. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
The best place to check in is my LinkedIn. It's going to be Patrick Thiele. And in the future, there's going to be a website I'm just building that's going to be capacity-advantage.com. And that's the work. And other than that, if you're from Germany, there's also a book that I've written before that called Flow Hacking. It's only in German so far. But if you want to check that out, that's also around the work that we just talked about.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. I'll just wrap it up for everyone who's watching. So if you're a consultant, if you're an executive coach or a founder with expertise, and maybe your positioning efforts aren't really bringing you the top clients that you'd like to have, maybe you're sensing that little hole that you want to step up into a bigger version of yourself on a bigger stage, maybe. And maybe you want a proven system to build real leverage, to stand out in your industry, and also to get better clients. And if that's you, then give us a call, book something through the calendar. Of course, watch any of the other videos that you're going to see linked to this one. And this was super, super helpful, super, super valuable, Patrick. Thanks so much. And I hope everyone found this valuable.